Hey beautiful, welcome to Dr. Sarah's Cafe. This is your weekly refill. It feels so good to be back. Even though you might have seen my refills posted every week, it's actually been 2 months since I recorded a new refill because I scheduled them way in advance. And so a lot has changed in my life, and I'm for the first time sitting down to record a refill in what feels like a really long time, and it feels so good to be back. I will probably do a separate video for full life updates, but as many of you know, I have recently moved to New York City from the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area, and so that took up the majority of my energy and time and attention. And in addition to getting settled, I also just needed extra time to pour into myself and fill my own cup. But I'm glad to have capacity now to be here with you all again, creating new content. And there's so much more to come in the new year, as you'll see, in the next day or so, actually, that there's some new content and some slight changes to the existing content. So let's get right into the flavor of the week for this week, which is new constitution. New constitution. So new year, new you, new year, new constitution. And constitution has a couple of meanings that are applying here for me. One, constitution being like the Constitution of the United States, right? The legal document that set forth the kind of country, the kind of nation that this would be. But also constitution as in our makeup, right? So what are you made of, right? What constitutes your identity? What constitutes your life and your lifestyle? What constitutes your happiness and your joy? And what's the makeup of your relationships and your mindset and your beliefs and your philosophy? So those things can be made new in the new year, and really any new cycle. Any new day, new month, new moment, new solar return, any moment, any period of time can be considered a new cycle. But since we are collectively, globally, really acknowledging this new Gregorian calendar start, and so many people are sending out that energy of newness, I think it is a good time to also think about what newness we want in our own lives going forward for the next 12 months. So let's look at the astrology that makes up this ingredient. One, I'm just looking at my illustrations here. I'll explain in a second. But one, on December 30th, we have the new moon in Capricorn. It might be on the 31st, depending on where you are in the globe. But to have a new moon on New Year's Eve, basically, to be going into a new year, a new calendar year, with a brand new moon in the sign of Capricorn at that, is pretty significant. It's pretty magical, I think. And Capricorn has recently been freed and relieved of that Pluto intensity, right? Now that Pluto has moved into Aquarius. And so Capricorn energy in general has a certain lightness to it is able to sort of have buoyancy and some levity. Not that Capricorn is known for levity, but it's not as bogged down or weighed down or repressed with that deep, intense Pluto in the energy and excavation, okay? And so this can be more optimistic, really, for the year ahead. And as we mentioned, Capricorn is about institutions and governments and hierarchical structures. And so I was thinking about this new moon in terms of the flavor of the week for new constitution, right? And so Capricorn, especially, with the United States and the Pluto return, even though not all of you live in the US, we know that US politics bleeds out into every, a lot of international context as well. And so what newness is coming in that Capricorn area of government, hierarchy, old systems, old institutions, right? And then we start out the year with Venus moving into Pisces, right? And so Venus moving into this very dreamy, watery, emotional, poetic, artsy sign, I think is going to be very, very beautiful to start the new year. Mars is retrograde and it is going to be opposing Pluto the next day, though. And so there is some mitigating of that dreamy, airy fairy, rainbows, unicorns, and sunshines that Venus might want to bring to us in this new year. So we're not in the clear yet. We never really are. We're not in the clear yet of tensions and potential conflicts or just internal growth opportunities, right? That might be had with Mars opposing Pluto. And then we also have the sun sextiling Saturn. And so the sun and Saturn, I think, is a very mature relationship. The sun, very mature, very self-sovereign, and Saturn being grounded, being disciplined, thinking about long-term benefits, long-term establishments. I'm also liking this in terms of the idea of new constitution, because what we're writing for ourselves, what we're reestablishing for ourselves could have a lot of long-term benefits, right? It could be very fruitful for the long haul, right? So not thinking about short-term gains or short-term wins, but as we write this new constitution for ourselves individually and collectively, or in our communities and families, thinking about what are the long-term consequences of what we're setting into place now. And then on January 4th, also we have Mars trining the North Node. And I think this is significant. Mars is retrograde, so it's asking us to reconsider something, to take a second look at things. It's kind of taking that assertiveness that comes with Mars and putting some guardrails on it, right? But that trine to the North Node is collective destiny. The North Node, as it transits, is where are we headed as a people? Where are we headed as a globe, as humanity? What's the destiny point that we are striving towards, right? Or that we are on trajectory towards. And so again, thinking about the new constitution, it's not just the fact that it's a new calendar year, right? We think about this North Node being at the beginning degree of Aries and about to switch signs in just a couple of weeks, right? Going into Pisces and being at that, final degree point. There is a shift, right? In our collective destiny point, right? Because the North Node is sort of like where you're evolving to, like what are you reaching towards? And so the illustrations I have here, we, the people, when we think about, I'll link to the Pluto and Aquarius video that I did, because there is going to be more considerations and reconsiderations and reconfiguring and struggle and experimentation around groups and communities and collectives and societies and nations. Like all of that stuff is going to be reworked. And so I don't want to give us this like overly optimistic thing that right out the gate, everything's going to be better and there's going to be more equality and more camaraderie, right? It's going to take some time for us to understand how to build a better world. It's going to take some time for us to understand how and where and when to dismantle versus when to create, to collaborate versus when to separate, right? And just so many things I think are going to be worked out and hashed out, especially in the earlier years of Pluto moving through Aquarius. But it is ultimately about these themes and this idea of, where are we headed as a people? But also for yourself, what is your personal constitution? So if you were to write a constitution for yourself in terms of what is your baseline, what is your basic philosophy, what are your core tenets, your core philosophies, your core beliefs, what are you trying to build for yourself in your life, with your family, in your local community, right? All of that matters and all of that contributes to the larger whole as well. And then I also have the X-Men, The Last Stand. And for me, this speaks to a few different things. One, the idea of mutants and mutations and thinking about how they came together, right? Despite some of them being in different factions and having different agendas, they had to figure out a way to work together to save all mutants, right? To save all. If you're familiar with the X-Men, storyline. If not, you can just skip ahead or just listen and take what you can get from it. But, Magneto had a very, very different approach than Xavier, right? And yet, for the last stand, it's like we are all in danger of peril and perishing if we don't find a way to harness our collective power. And I think this is one of the difficulties of community is what I see a lot, especially in the age of social media. There's so much there, is that if we aren't 100% in agreement 100% of the time, then we can't collaborate. We can't be in unity. We can't be in community, right? If there's 0.01% that I disagree with you on, then I have to like be completely dismissive of you and I can't be on your side. And I think we're going to be questioning those things with Pluto and Aquarius. We're going to be questioning, right? Like, why do I have a mandate that the people that I align myself with have to be in 100% agreement 100% of the time, right? It's just not, what we've seen is not the best way to have this sort of last stand energy. And also thinking about like with the mutants, each of them having their own unique skill, their own unique talent, their own unique contribution to the overall strength of their united force, of their united power. And so my hope, and with this channel, I want to continue to inspire people and encourage people to really lean into like, what is your gift? What is your spiritual gifts? What is your skill? What is your unique knowledge set, your unique personality traits and quirks that are beneficial and that contribute to the power of our larger collective? All right, and then the tarot cards that we get are the Seven of Pentacles and Justice. So the Justice card definitely fed into the overall flavor, the blending that I did with the new Constitution and thinking about justice and the Constitution, your constitutional rights has a lot to do with this justice energy on a practical, mundane level, right? And then that Seven of Pentacles energy, again, being about what is our long-term investment? What have we worked hard on so far? And how's it going, right? How's that going for us? Do we need to adjust? Do we need to pivot? Do we need to double down and invest even more? Or do we need to take a whole new path, a whole new approach altogether? And so it's a time, Seven of Pentacles and Justice here, it's a time perfect, I mean, people do this at the new year anyway, but it's just emphasizing like, take this opportunity, right? You don't have to scoff at the idea of New Year's resolutions, because if any day is a good day to reflect, then that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, right? Like, it doesn't have to be this sort of dismissive thing like, oh, well, I'm not going to participate in New Year's shenanigans because it's just an arbitrary date. Yeah. And so for that reason, it's perfectly fine to use that date as a time for reflection and recalibration and auditing and reviewing your life and where you are and where you've been and where you want to go and what adjustments, if necessary, can you make to better align with that just future, that decision that you're making for yourself. And this is going to be like a really committed decision, like a contract with yourself, a contract with your own soul, your own spirit here with this Justice card of saying, this is the route I've been on. And after deep reflection and review, I am more committed to this path now than ever before. And then for others of you, upon reflection and review, I realized that this is the end of the road with this particular thing. And it's time for me to tie up the loose ends, to release it and surrender it and begin fresh, to start anew, right? And so, yeah, the Seven of Pentacles is about where am I? How's it going? Do I need to pivot? Do I need to adjust? Do I need to double down? Or do I need to surrender, release, and make a pivot, right? And then our Oracle card is Creativity, the Seven Sisters. And this is number 12, so it breaks down to a 3, which is also a very creative number. And I'm loving this because Seven Sisters is about community, right? Thinking about that sisterhood. And me, as a Black woman, what I've been seeing a lot on threads especially is like all these Black women being excited to be in the 92% and being excited to say like, hey, I want to follow more Black women and find community with other like-minded people. And so this card definitely is giving me that energy of saying, like, who are my sisters? Who are my brothers? Who are my siblings? Who are my friends? Who are my neighbors? Who are my collaborators and my allies? Where's my tribe, right? Who are my people? In a more intimate and direct way. Because ultimately we could say like all of humanity is our people, but right, like who are we going to be in intimate community with? Who are we going to be in collaboration with to create? This idea of creativity is so, so important as we think about what needs to end, what needs to be dismantled, what needs to be done away with. We also have to be very, very clear in our use of our imaginations for what we want to create. We have to not just say like, oh, I'm tired of racism, I'm tired of patriarchy, I'm tired of classism, I'm tired of sexism and colorism. We also have to use our imaginative abilities to imagine what we want instead. What do we want to create instead of those things, in place of those things, right? Because nature abhors a vacuum. So if we're just like none of that, then what's going to take that place? And so we have to direct and design and create what those alternatives and those other possibilities are going to be. And we can do that in community, right? We can do that. Our collective imagination is very, very powerful. Something I want to continue to talk about, in the new year as well. And the pastry and poetry. So I recently found out that this is a couple of people's favorite part of the weekly refills. And so you'll be happy to know that I have like five slides for this week's pastry and poetry. I recently saw the Wicked movie. I'm obsessed. Cynthia Erivo did her thing. Okay, like Elphaba, Wicked Witch of the West vibes, all 2025. You hear me? So the first pastry and poetry segment comes from the Wicked Witch of the West. And we think about this idea of new constitution, new start, a new season of our lives. The Wicked Witch of the West, also known as Elphaba, and I'll explain why I'm referring to her as the Wicked Witch of the West instead of Elphaba. But she says here, something has changed within me. Something is not the same. That is a new constitution. That is a new constitution for yourself. You are fundamentally, atomically different. You are made up of different materials and substances. Something has changed within me. Something is not the same. Okay, whether that happened on the solstice, whether that happened in October, whether it happened on New Year's Day, whether it's going to happen on your birthday later this year. Again, whatever the date is, something has changed within me. Something is not the same. And that is important. That is significant. And then I also brought in the energy of Janelle Monáe again, also a Capricorn, born on December 1st, 1985. These 1985 babies, are in the house. She says, no, I'm not the same. I think I done changed. I used to walk into a room head down. I don't walk, now I float. Baby, listen, okay? I wanna get this to you. No, I'm not the same. I think I done changed, okay? I have a new constitution. And then your girl, Issa Rae. Or rather, I should say my girl. My girl, Issa Rae, okay? She might be your girl too, but definitely mine. I don't like being limited. This is my worst nightmare. I want to be able to flex other muscles and see what else I can do. I want to be able to flex other muscles and see what else I can do. And this hit home for me because of my career shifts, my career evolution, my public persona evolution, right? A few years ago, I would not have thought I'd be creating videos like this on YouTube. Yet here I am. What else I can do? And I like this one because one fear I have, or one hope, let's focus on the hope aspect. one hope that I have for us as people is that we allow ourselves to imagine more possibilities, that we allow ourselves to imagine what else can be. Because without that imaginative practice, we can't create anything else, right? We're left with more of what is. We're left with more of the status quo if we are not able to imagine something different. Change, especially intentional, progressive change, comes because people imagined the alternative. People imagined what else is possible beyond this enslavement? What else is possible beyond this limitation? What else is possible beyond this painful reality? What else is possible beyond this detrimental context or situation? And then we bring it back full circle to the Wicked Witch of the West. Unlimited, unlimited, unlimited. Unlimited. And so I'm referring to her as the Wicked Witch of the West. So pulling in some extra threads about, post-election in the US, a lot of people are saying, Black women are entering their villain era, or you just witnessed the origin story of Black women's villain era. But the reason why I like this is because of this is the version of her that has switched from wanting to please and be accepted to standing fully in her authenticity, regardless of what other people thought of her, right? And I think that for me is just hitting home right now in the moment for me personally. I don't know about you all. Let me know in the comments. But saying like, if wickedness means being counter to oppressive establishments, then I stand in that. If I am wicked too, if I am a threat to, if I am troubling and problematic to the oppressive status quo, then baby, I'll take wicked all day, every day, okay? So if you care to find me, look to the western skies. And my dears, our to-go or takeaway. If you are engaging in any reflections for the new calendar year, consider these as well. How am I different than I was last year? Oh my gosh, where do I begin? The level of change and difference. Whew. I responded to a comment on Threads that I am not at all doing what I thought I'd be doing. I'm not at all where I thought I would be, and I'm not at all who I thought I would be right now, the way I thought I was last year, right? And then also, how will this help me create a new vision? How am I different than I was last year? And how will it help me to create a new vision? My dears, there is so much news. As you can see, just the atmosphere and the background and the context, the physical location of Dr. Sarah's Cafe has changed. And it's just a reflection of so much that has changed internally. And I am so grateful that I have this, opportunity to share with you all from my soul, to speak from my soul, to speak from my story, to speak from my spirit and pour into you. And I delight in those of you who send energy back, who message me back in comments, or who share any of this content, and just, wanting to prioritize this community. Speaking of building community going forward, I definitely look forward to nurturing you all in the new year. All right. Much love, and I hope to see you in another video. Take care.